And then we need to go and find the lengths of our other two angles. So as I mentioned, this is something we could solve just by using properties of isosceles triangles. But obviously, the purpose of this example is to at least practice using law of sines, law of cosines. All right? So in this case, we're given an angle. So we don't need to decide anything about an angle. Right? We're given an angle. So now we just need to say, well, which are we going to want to use? Well, obviously, we can use the same formula B. It doesn't matter which, these are all the same. So it doesn't matter that I've gone through two examples of using that formula. So I say b squared equals a squared plus c squared minus 2 times a times c times the cosine of b. Again, just plug in the information you have, Caroline, because it's very basic. All you're doing is taking the information you have and plugging it in. And you're already given the formula, so there shouldn't be any disruption on what you're plugging in. We don't know what b is. A is 4 plus c is 4 minus 2 times 4 times 4 times the cosine of our angle B, which is 110 degrees. So therefore, we can say b squared equals 16 plus 16. What, Zoe? What was your question? Oh, you didn't have a question. Did you have that written down? OK. Minus 2 times 4 times 4, which is 32, times the cosine of 110 degrees. Now, at this next step, I'm just going to use my calculator to evaluate the rest of this if I had my calculator, which I guess I do not have. Can I put it over here? It does no. It does not matter. Guys, excuse me. Excuse me. As I mentioned, just going over this, guys, I just want the bell already rang, so we have about 30 minutes left. I want to make sure I can get through this, all right? And to make sure I get through this with your question. No, as I mentioned, that just all depends on B. It doesn't matter if I gave you A. It's all the same formulas, just everything's rewritten differently, OK? But it doesn't really matter. It's just the fact that I just gave you two examples that are dealing with B, all right? So when I solve this, I get 42.94 when I add those up into my calculator. So now I can say that b squared equals 42.94. Then I take the square root of that answer, and I get b equals 6.60. As again, I'm rounding to the 10th. All right? So now I know what my side length is. So now, since I know my side length, I now have a ratio. So to find the other side length, I need to apply my law of sines, right? And it's nice because I have now I have an obtuse angle, so I know that my other two angles have to be acute, and I don't have to check for like a second case, right? Because I have an obtuse angle. So we're good on that part. So now I say, well, I have 6.60 over the sine of 110 degrees, and C? OK. We'll do C. And it doesn't really matter because it's all the same numbers, right? So now, to go ahead and solve for this, what I'll go and do is isolate the cosine C. So I'll apply cross multiplication. Yeah? I don't know. OK? Huh? I need to find another angle. OK? So to find another angle, I can use the law of cosines if I want to, but it's much quicker in my mind to just work the rest of them using law of sines. So therefore, JJ, what I have is 4 times the sine of 110 degrees, and then divided by 6.60. Now I take the inverse sine of second answer. So once I go ahead and determine this, which is 34.72, which obviously you guys can be able to determine that this is obviously, we know that those two answers are 35. So obviously by using my rounding, you can see that the answer got a little bit manipulated, right? So obviously I'm going to have to round this to 35 because that's not going to working the things. And I appreciate the whistling, but it's not really something that's necessary at this point in time. And then obviously, since we know this is an isosceles triangle, I don't need to keep on subtracting. I can also see that that's going to be 35 as well. OK? Yes?
Do you want us, for B, do you want it rounded before you square root it?
Actually, that's probably where that's probably where everything came through. That's probably why I got there. No, when you have 16 plus 16 minus 32 times the cosine. Six points. Yeah, 5, 5. Yeah, that's where my answer would have been wrong.